Welcome to Game Set Matchup, the podcast where we talk everything partnerships, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hello everyone, I'm Carl Busby, your host of Game Set Matchup, the #1 partnerships podcast, and we are back with another episode. So today I caught up with Dawei Wang, who is the head of strategic partnerships at a payment company called Thunes. So Dawei is based in Barcelona, where he heads up a relatively new partnerships team at Thunes, who are one of the biggest cross-border payment companies out there. Having originally started in a strategy role at Thunes, Dawei has now gone on to head up a strategic partnership team within the business. Thunes work with lots of different businesses such as banks, digital merchants, payment service providers, marketplaces to support them in their worldwide end-to-end payment needs. We discuss such topics like how Dawei got into the role, his top tips on how best to have a high-performing team, what makes a gold star partnership for Thunes, and what they are doing differently from other competitors to stand out in this heavily populated sector. Remember, you can find out more about Finder and how we are helping businesses secure their first discovery call with vetted decision makers by hitting the links in the description. Enjoy the episode. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to Game Set Matchup. So this is the podcast where we discuss all things partnerships. Maybe you're new to the partnerships world, looking for some hints and tips how to get started, or you might be an experienced pro, just looking a bit of inspirational direction. Obviously, whichever one, as always, thank you for tuning in. I'm your host today, Carl Busby, and please welcome our guest today. So it's Dawei Wang, who is the head of strategic partnerships at Thunes. Hello and welcome, Dawei.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We'll just start off as we like to do with all of our guests, just trying to get to a little bit more about who you are, maybe a little bit about your background, what you're kind of doing in your current role, and then maybe a bit more to say about what Thunes actually do.
Yeah, sure. So my background, I started my career in banking with JP Morgan, and then did a few years of strategy consulting with EY Partnell. And then I found my current home, Thunes, where I undertook a number of different roles, started from strategy and M&A related topics to now this commercial role where I have oversight of the business's commercial partnership organization, where on a day-to-day basis, it's all about crafting strategic partnerships where we have common goals, where we can accelerate our commercial objectives together. In short. And then more interestingly, I guess, Thunes, what does Thunes do? So Thunes is the largest cross-border payments network probably out there in the market. And in essence, we are the engine for all things cross-border payments related. We help institutions, regulated and non-regulated, across everywhere in the world to pay and get paid from any corner of the world. So that's in a super high level what Thunes does.
Yeah. No. It's amazing. I think obviously doing a little bit of research before we spoke. I said I can see that Thunes is absolutely a huge company, and obviously payments. Everybody has to make payments, so we know this is obviously one of those sectors that said is quite it's quite a lot of businesses and companies, and obviously competition as well in terms of that space. So just with that being said, with the payment sector being such a huge sort of sector, with Thunes you said they're obviously one of the largest. What would you say in terms of Thunes does, that's different to maybe other, payment companies out there? Is any sort of unique, sort of selling point of stuff that, that Thunes kind of, that does that others don't?
Yeah, sure. I think what truly set us apart is that we provide a true pan-global solution while remaining locally relevant. So what do I mean by that is that our solution indeed is suitable for any institutions no matter where they're based, our solutions will be a good fit. But in order to achieve that, we've spent years in the markets locally and gathered all the hard work in all those markets from a regulatory perspective, from a technical perspective. We've gathered all the local experience, and all that hard work, or the plumbing, if you like, we have done. We package it together and we take it to our customers. And I think that's extremely hard to come by, because it takes a lot of physical resources to just simply to be everywhere in the world and gather all that expertise. And I think that's what really makes a difference for us compared to some of the other solutions out there.
No, that does make a lot of sense. And also, you just said, I mean, you're pan global, so you literally do cover every the entire globe. So obviously, the world's a big place. So
Indeed,
yeah,
it's extremely hard to get to that scale while being right, or be able to capture the individual local market nuances at the same time. That's an extremely hard combination to achieve.
yeah, yeah. No, I think I can definitely understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah. So again, just to obviously keep on the subject around partnerships, and also I know you said your role so is quite a lot in the strategic side of things. So how would you say you've seen, like with Thunes and in the obviously the time that you've been there, the approach to sort of creating partnerships with other sort of businesses, and then like for Thunes, what would you say would make a really sort of gold star partnership for yourself and another business that you potentially would want to work with?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question, right? I think I'm really still in the process of learning, to be honest. I think things can always be done better as well. I think when we started the commercial partnership organization for Tunes, we tried a lot of different things, and we are always evaluating what worked and what didn't work. So I think over the last few years, I think what remains to be probably the most important factor is that both of the organizations involved in the partnership have to be super invested and super engaged. And in order to achieve that, what the key prerequisite is that strategically both of the organizations, or at least the partnership organizations within the organizations, really have a super aligned goal in terms of the commercial objectives they need to achieve. Sometimes it sounds simple, and it really is down to something as simplistic as that, but it's extremely hard to tease out the nuances and to make sure that point is captured. But I do believe that's a key element to form the foundation of the success of the partnership.
Yeah. No, I think we've spoken to quite a few men, and that is, one of the key things I think a lot of businesses talk about is obviously having that alignment. I think, and obviously you can talk a bit maybe about your experience in terms of, when you have obviously, you've had probably some good potential partnerships that work, and then obviously you have some that don't obviously work so well. One of the things we always talk about partnerships is like, we wish every partnership worked and everybody was making money, but we know that's not real life. That's not how it works. So
I think most of the time it doesn't work. I think majority of it. I think it's with everything.
This is the reality, right? This is what we want to talk about, like the truth. So I think you're right. You can have potentially 10 partners, and if one or two of those does become something quite fruitful, then you've probably then you've done sort of well. So
yeah,
so there, 100%. Yeah, being aligned is a big deal. And then just quickly, I mean, obviously you've been working obviously in this current role for just like so roughly sort of 2 years. Obviously, you talked a bit about your background and what you was doing before at Thunes. So is there anything specifically that interested you in doing the partnerships role? Did it something you kind of just fell into accidentally, or is this something that you've kind of like looked into and thought this is something that sort of fits your skill sets, that kind of stuff? You're just interested to know how you got into that role.
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of it is really about being at the right place at the right time, really. I think at that time of the transition, I've been doing advisory stuff all my career, and I wanted something that will give me real hands-on commercial experience in the trenches, as they say. And at that time, it was kind of obvious that the organization could benefit from a commercial partnership team to accelerate growth, top line, and so on. And the nature of the role and the day-to-day work still actually massively leverages my existing experience in terms of being able to think about things more holistically and strategically, be familiar with the broader ecosystem rather than just what's directly relevant for us. And I think there's skill set combined with the situation, the timing, kind of drove me to this role, really. So a bit of different factors that made this happen, which is I guess how things happen most of the time in life, really.
Yeah. And I mean, I just, obviously obvious questions since you've been doing it, but you're obviously enjoying the role and obviously what it's bringing the challenges.
Yeah, there's so many challenges, really. There's never a dull day. At Tunes, in particular, the commercial partnership team oversees deals from an end-to-end perspective. So the remit is broader as well.
Yeah.
And as such, there's always different challenges, issues to solve, whether if it's at a partner level or customer level as well. And I think just the constant testing of what works, what doesn't work, to increase that 20% to maybe 30-40% is where I'm spending most of my time thinking about those challenges. And I think that's where you can really build a differentiator as a partnership team, really. I think these days in most organizations there are some form of partnership teams. So how can you then create a difference? And most partnership teams will probably achieve that 20% success. So if you can achieve that 30-40% success, then you are the differentiator already.
Yeah. No, I like that. And just I wasn't sure, you just touched on was obviously the role you went into the partnerships, was that a new role at Tunes that was created there, or did they already have a previous ever team before?
Yeah, indeed, it was completely new
Awesome.
new business unit, new role, new opportunity. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, like you say, you just touched on that. I mean, we've spoken to a few businesses where, some companies that don't actually have, partnership teams there. It's obviously something that for some it is, quite new. Also, I think it also varies by country. So, like when we've spoken to a lot of companies in America, and they have big partnership, sort of teams, and it's quite a well-known thing there. Whereas obviously sort of more like, in the UK, you do have them, but like some businesses, it's still, quite a new thing. Like you said, you've got to obviously be able to prove to the business that it's going to actually, bring you some sort of, return on investment and stuff. So, yeah, it's just intriguing. Obviously, Tunes being as big as it is, and obviously partnership is quite a new thing, to the business. Yes. So just getting on again on the partnerships. Also, just quickly just talk about when you said obviously with the being a gold star partnership, it's looking to businesses that have those aligned values and stuff like that. I just want, what was like, is there one or two things that you are, that you do specifically look for, like in a business, that basically is going to, essentially help with that alignment. So for example, like, I don't know, maybe they have to work in a specific way, or they need to have a specific team that's available. Is there any like specific or like traits that you kind of, sort of look for, before you reach out, like, specific companies that you want to work with, or?
yeah, sure. So yeah, I think there's no black and white on that. It's everything is a bit of a gray zone. There's certain traits and characteristics we look for.
Yep.
I think one thing that's really important for me is that there's a mutual recognition of value. I think a lot of the time in partnerships, things tend to be very one-sided, even though the intention is not to be. But
Yep.
somehow it always ends up to be a bit more one-sided because either party only really have full visibility to what's close to them, and therefore is not conscious of what's possible and the bigger picture. So it's very hard to recognize truly recognize the mutual value, and in order to tangibly to make sure that does happen, there's a few things we look for. One is, of course, the just general engagement, right? Just general engagement of the partnership, or the team from the other side of organization, that there's genuine interest and enthusiasm to engaging in the partnership. The commercial framework structure reflects the common recognition of the value as well. I think for me, these are probably the two key factors which will give you a pretty good handle on if that mutual recognition of value is indeed in place to pave the foundation for things.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, I think again you touched on one of the key things. I think a lot of our people we speak to is that it's there's a mutual stuff going on. Obviously, it can start off in a way that it seems like it's a mutual, and then further that it just you start to see that it's not actually working out. Working out
Indeed.
that way. Just like from your perspective, like when that tends to happen, does that sort of relationship or that then get shut off like kind of immediately sort of thing, or do you sort of try to, I don't know, bring it back from the dead, so to speak, or is it just it's just let go of?
Yeah, you always try, right? I think you always try, especially if you initially recognize there's value and then somehow things gets derailed. You always try to at least validate if your initial hypothesis was correct or not.
Yeah.
But at some point, or sometimes you just also gotta be able to lose faster as well, because
Yeah.
I think there's also nothing worse you can do, especially in a high growth environment, that you overspending too much time on something, because the opportunity cost is just so high.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess also, we all learn, right? So you learn from these things, and you take those into the
Exactly. Indeed.
Cool. And then just again, just keeping on that theme. So just obviously at Finder, we're all about helping businesses get those discovery calls and get to talk to other people looking for potential partnerships or ways that they can potentially work together. So with Thunes obviously being like I said, a really absolutely massive company. How are you currently going about looking to find companies that you can potentially work with? Do you have a team, or do you have people that go out as a referral? How does it actually work?
Yeah, we have a team. The team size is still relatively small as well, which I think is actually right for partnership team. I think partnership team serves and acts as an accelerator, and it's got to be super impactful. And so as such, the size of the team, if it's too big, then it kind of defeats the objective a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a team, and we will continue on to grow the team as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a super great team we have as well.
Yeah. Just I mean, again, if you can obviously dive well, just like how are they going about it? I mean, obviously, for us at Finder, I mean, it's as simple as like we have obviously companies from like startups all the way up to like the bigger companies, and obviously they obviously I guess have their teams that go out there, but like for example, the smaller companies will be using LinkedIn and trying to reach out to people who they think would be worthwhile talking to. We all know that's a very tough way of obviously speaking to people. This is why obviously we'd find everybody on the platform's open to having a conversation and speaking. So I can imagine the obviously whatever tools and stuff that they're using, like they're going to obviously get some obviously I guess buying from some people, whereas obviously you some are just not going to have interest. So it's like just how they kind of, if you could, how are they sort of going about getting that conversation started with potential other businesses?
Yeah, sure. I think it's there's no magic bullets for this really. Indeed, things like LinkedIn maybe not be able to give you the best return on investment, but it still does. From my experience, I think that the key is to be super relevant and super precise with your messaging when you do those outreach. So when at least when you get to the right audience, when they see it, they get it straight away, and this will massively increase your success rate. Industry events, of course, is always helpful as well. And there's no unfortunately, there's nothing that's out of anything unusual that will make one more successful than others. I think it's really about, as basics, is keep trying and keep refining your message, and keep testing. You'll again very quickly find out what works and what doesn't work, and then once you do, it's about being consistent with your messaging.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, I totally agree. I was just interested to again. Obviously companies such as big as obviously Thunes, just thought, is there any sort of special things they're doing? But I think ultimately it comes down to the same factors that you're doing same sort of things. You're just trying to make sure that the message you said is as clear as possible, that people do obviously pick up on it. They understand what's going on, and then that hopefully that conversation can maybe lead.
I think the most special things, people always think there's something magical or something special, but I think the most special thing is about doing the basic things right consistently, which is extremely hard to do. Or people tend not to do it for a variety of reasons. But that, from my experience, really is the key to success across many facets of life, really.
No, absolutely. And then obviously a little bit of diverting, but we do like to sort of ask this question of guests. Obviously, so this can be anything really. Obviously, more can be specific to the partnerships role, but just like any advice you would give to sort of your younger self, sort of starting out, in the sort of partnership space and that sort of strategy space. That you might be able to, even just one thing that you'd say to yourself if you could go back in time to advice.
Yeah, so many, really, so many. But I think in terms of partnerships in particular, I think
Yeah.
if I were to go back and do this over again, I think I would spend more time in understanding and recognize the value of the partnership before formalizing any partnership. Very much to what we talked about earlier. I think that piece of that mutual recognition of value, it's super important. I think often it's the excitement of getting something done or getting a partnership done can definitely overshadow that, and you believe this is an achievement, but then it's going to hurt you in the long run.
Long run, yeah. No, I think again, great bit of advice there. I think probably the same in a lot of things in life. You were excited to do something, but are you really looking at everything and to be 100%? Well, you can never be 100%, I guess, but just as sure as you can that there's going to be something obviously worthwhile. But it's tough, I think, in businesses because we all want to be able to say, yeah, look what this shiny new thing, it's ready to go and get everyone excited. But then, like you said, if things don't work out, then you've got to be able to deal with the fallout at the same time.
Yeah, indeed.
Cool. And then, as I say, I mean, obviously you said the partnerships stuff you're doing there obviously is quite new. Obviously at Thunes, obviously you've got a wider team there that obviously you're working with. Obviously one of the things critical for any business to really sort of succeed is having a team that are aligned and having a good sort of culture within the team and obviously the business in general. So is there any sort of tips that maybe for yourself, or maybe it could be like a previous manager that you worked under where they really installed like really good values or had a really good culture for a team that can work together and obviously get as best results as possible?
Yeah, sure. I think everyone probably acknowledges in order to thrive, you've got to have a high performing team in place, right? And I think my recommendation is I think you've got to be conscious that once you have a team, you are actually working for your team rather than your team is working for you. I think once you have that mentality, your team then will start to thrive. And if they thrive, then you will thrive as well. And I think that's the core principle that I operate on as well.
No, again, I really like that. I think again, it's key to any business, especially to retain talent as well, right? You want to keep the best people in your business. That's what everybody wants to do ultimately. And you're only going to do that if you've got the right culture and like you said, everyone's working and fighting for each other. Essentially, so yeah, no, I really like that. And then just on to our final question. One of the things I really like to ask people is just, what do you think the future holds, in this sort of sector? There's so many changes and advances, going on in the world. Obviously, the most common one that obviously pops up is obviously AI, because this is the big buzzword at the moment in terms of businesses, what they can and can't obviously use it for. Is this going to replace humans, etc., etc.? I'm sure you've all this stuff. So yeah, just like if you can just touch on maybe a little bit of like is there anything that yourself or Thunes will be or planning to try and do a little bit differently in the future in this sort of partnership space?
Yeah, I think as with all things, right, technology will help us to become a lot more efficient. And if you look across the market, there are various software tools and platforms that helps to drive efficiency in partnerships. In particular, already the likes of Reveal, for example, is a pretty good tool where it takes out a lot of the manual work, what people used to have to do in terms of account mapping, for example, right? Now you can just upload a file and all the stats and data will be thrown at you, and you save a lot of time. So I think, I think that stuff will continue to evolve as well, which is great for anyone operating in the partnership space, because what that means is essentially it gives you more time to again to focus and think about the high value stuff, which is again down to the stuff we talked about already in terms of recognizing value, understand partner's objective, think of it a great incentive strategy for your partnership, which I think these things are still quite hard to be replaced by the likes of AI, because I think there's just too many nuanced factors, which is probably still difficult to fully put it into an algorithm. And I think this is where the value is still at, really.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's good. It's obviously nice to hear something else that, you know, jobs are still safe. I don't think AI is going to totally take over the world. Obviously, just yet. I think you know, it's going to probably, you know, touch everybody at some point, and obviously depending on the business. But listen, obviously come to the end. You know, again, just want to really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us at Finder. And yeah, like I said, just been really great to catch up with you. Really thank you for coming to give us a bit of a perspective of your world.
Yeah, no problem at all. Really enjoyed our chat as well, Carl.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining this week's Game Set Matchup. Tune in to hear more about the need to knows and the do's and don'ts when it comes to creating successful business partnerships.